Welcome to the Local Marketing Source Weekly Update, brought to you by localmarketingsource.com. This update is taken from the Local Marketing Source Professional Development Program for local marketers.
This week's Local Marketing Update is brought to you by Scott Gallagher. Scott is the co-founder of Local Marketing Source and has become the recognized expert in providing online marketing services to local businesses. Follow Scott on Twitter @ScottGallagher5 and on Facebook.com/ScottPGallagher.
Hey, well, good afternoon, everyone. Scott Gallagher here with Local Marketing Source, and this is our first member call of 2013. Well, our next LMS member faculty call with live questions is going to be next Wednesday on our regular time. That's January 9th at 4 p.m. Eastern. And as you know, the LMS membership provides access to our private Facebook group, as well as access to the portal with hundreds of different videos. And we're going to begin our weekly update this week, as well as a business tip, and get into some live questions. And this week, it's been a little bit of a dry week, I guess, because of the holidays and whatnot. Not a lot has changed, but I'm very excited to get into some predictions of 2013, and we did that last year, and took a look at what some of the marketplace is going to be looking at and what we should expect for small businesses in the local market space. But we're also going to cover some changes for service area businesses. This seems to be a really big aspect for Google and how they look at it, and we're going to talk a little bit about what exactly defines a service area business in the eyes of Google, as well as the marketplace, and some rumors about Apple making some acquisitions and some discussions about crowdsourcing. Now, before we get into that, we've got our weekly tip, and in our last call we discussed and talked about on-the-page factors for websites and website SEO. And this week we're going to talk about a topic that seems to be so simple, company blogs, and why a local business would want a company blog and how to use that company blog in your SEO strategy. And the truth is that a blog is really a very critical piece to an online marketing strategy. We could take a look at a website and a blog and the two different components of it. And a website really, well, one, it is there to provide some background information. It's there to engage with customers and an audience and provide content to your prospective audience, so being the industry at large, prospects, and of course customers. But a website holds static pages and very uniformed navigation, where a blog is an ongoing form of communication. And so a business has got different messages that need to be communicated in different ways. And that's what a blog essentially is used for. And so a blog can host a whole variety of different types of content, whether it's written content in an article form or video content that may be hosted on a site like YouTube. You embed it into your blog, visual content and images, and they're very easy to upload. And there's a whole variety of different blogging solutions that are out there. Well, it really comes down to two types of blog solutions. We've got hosted blog solutions, and let me turn off Facebook here. I'm getting messages. I should have had that off in the first place. You've got self-hosted blogs and hosted blogs. Hosting blogs would be a Blogger solution or WordPress.com. But a self-hosted blog is where you host it on your own server. And we recommend the platform WordPress. You can go to WordPress.org, download that, install it. A host like GoDaddy has got a one-click install of WordPress. That's your best solution, and WordPress, as we know, is a content management system. There's different plugins that you want to put on your blog, such as an all-in-one SEO plugin, some social plugins for Twitter, and there's different video plugins. It's relatively easy to manage. It also gives you an opportunity to provide internal linking into your website and navigation through your website as you've got this type of communication. When you have a self-hosted blog, you've got the opportunity to have opt-ins in it. So the main objective of a blog can be to build your audience and You know, I like, there's one plugin I use called bottom of every post, and so every time you do a post, it will post an opt-in for a download. And so when you're creating content for a blog, don't just go ahead and have content created for the sake of creating it, but get yourself on a schedule of whether it's once a week or once a month to create a new piece of content. And you can create content that's related to an industry, something that, you know, if you're in the world of dentistry, maybe something new came out and you wanted to provide your perspective as a dentist, or on how that dentist may have what you may have done in the local community in the last little while, or you may want to celebrate something of one of your internal employees, or you may want to showcase some reviews that have recently come in. So you've got a lot of different ways, a lot of different ideas to be able to create this type of content. Search engines really like blogs because content is created. And the aspect of freshness is an important factor when it comes to that. So having said that, every small business should have a blog of some form. All right, now getting into the weekly update. Blumenthal says, you know, service area businesses with a verified social local Google Plus page. Says delete it. Well, this is a big claim. Now, what it comes down to is Google has said service area businesses, that's businesses where customers don't come to your location. Well, there's a really big gray area with that, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit. But they say customers that don't come to your location should have their addresses hidden. Well, take my own business, for example. How often do I actually have customers come to my office? Very, very rarely. In the last 6 or 7 years that I've been in this location here, we could probably count on both hands how many times we've had a prospect or a customer come to the office. But the office is open for people to come to. Well, are we a service area business? No, we're not. Now, take some of my clients, for example. A courier business. Well, is that a service area business? Yes, this company goes out to the client's locations that they need them to be at and provide a particular service. Do customers come to a courier office? Well, I've been inside courier offices. I could think of some courier offices that are operated out of homes that have just been so down and dirty that you'd never want anybody to come to it. Is that a service area business? Well, I guess in a sense, by Google's definition, it is. But are we going to hide the addresses? No. Well, most of these courier businesses operate in the same sense that my agency does. On the odd time, somebody would come to that location. They may want to show them the warehouse, they may want to show them the office operations, and even if they're operating out of their home with their drivers still come and pick up their checks and whatnot. They're still operating a particular business that is open to a certain degree. Now, what about a plumber that operates out of their home and they go out and they service? Well, in that case, that's where Google wants you to hide the address, but there's a conflict of interest, because we know that hiding the address is a high negative factor in low rankings. In other words, if you hide your address, your likelihood to rank drops, so you don't want to hide your address in any event. Those businesses that do hide their address, and this is critical, you do not want to tie your Places page to a Google Plus local social page. Why? Because it's a violation of the terms and conditions and it's going to get you bad ranking. Do I agree with it? I think this is a challenge that Google's got to face. That doesn't make sense. They're just going to raise a tremendous amount of confusion. Certain businesses do it this way and other businesses do it that way, and in businesses that are over here, there's a gray area for interpretation. They can't have that. They can't leave that responsibility on marketers and small businesses with so many of them out there. It just does not make sense. So is this going to be a long-term way of handling this? I doubt it, but that's the way it is today. Some rumors here. Apple may be buying crowdsourcing mapping app Waze. Well, big deal. What is a big deal about this is the aspects of crowdsourcing. And you take the concept of Waze, for example. You've got traffic patterns. You've got people taking pictures. You've got location-based information that's all over the place. You bring all that information together, you can get some pretty good data that has to do with what's going on out in the world. Whether you've got construction changes and light changes and all this other stuff. And it really starts to get to the idea and the concept that crowdsourcing is a very big piece of mapping, well, traffic patterns, mapping people patterns, mapping business patterns that exist out there. Even when we start to talk about crowdsourcing concepts, review systems and the algorithm that looks at the particular reviews, well, that's ultimately leveraging a crowdsourcing type of environment. So Google, that bought Zagat, essentially was one step ahead of Apple in that framework. Hence, crowdsourcing is likely a very large trend of 2013. And that's going to lead me into the predictions of 2013. I've got some predictions here from SEO experts over at Search Engine Land. But that one that's not on there is one that I'm just discussing right now, is the concept of crowdsourcing. Well, whether you're a small business or you've got a profile, individual profile on Facebook, we're seeing crowdsourcing all over the place. And we're seeing the changes in Facebook. You know, I noticed that when I was out of the country, I was getting more feeds from people that were local to me. Is that built into the algorithm? Was it just changes with people that are friends because I happened to be there or making note of it? I don't know if it was any of that. I don't know if it's in the algorithm, but in theory it makes sense. And so I think we're going to see a lot more of that. But let's get into some predictions of what they've said over at Search Engine Land. I went ahead and posted today's call on the forum, and a lot more people are in the call today than we had registered. That was a good move, I guess. Where did my mouse go? In any event, let's get to some predictions. Number one, none of the potential threats to Google's domination of search is going to make even a tiny dent. Well, what they're saying there is that you've got a lot of different so-called local search engines that are coming out. Everything from, you know, Facebook and Apple and Amazon, you know, what we've seen. Google's still the dominant player. They're likely not going to lose much market share at all, if any, in the world of search. And, you know, I'd have to agree with that, that we've seen other firms like DuckDuckGo come up. There was a couple of years ago, search engine Cool came up. You know, there were executives of Google that left. Bing came into the marketplace, partnered up with Yahoo. There's still sub 20% market share between Bing and Yahoo. Google is still 80% or thereabouts across the globe. This is a cool one. Number two, inbound marketing will be more job titles and profiles than, say, SEO. Well, what? Okay, why is that? And, you know, this holds true to exactly everything we've been saying for years, is that SEO ultimately is, it's bullshit. Internet marketing is where we know that we've got to be focusing on and being marketers as opposed to manipulating a search engine. And so the idea of being an SEO expert out there, it just doesn't hold much weight to it, and that's only going to dissipate. You know, SEO is going to be a term that we're going to look back on. I don't think it ever should have been or will continue to be a mainstream term. Mind you, local businesses are now contacting us, unlike they have before, asking about quote-unquote SEO services. So I may be a little bit wrong on that, or that may take a little bit of time. But just the idea of search engine optimization, optimizing for a search engine. That concept holds true, but really to optimize for a search engine, the search engines are looking for just quality marketing that exists out there. So that would be your optimization strategy. The idea of looking at different reviews and concepts of getting into conversion for local businesses, discussions of service area. Really, what does that have to do with on-the-page factors or optimizing for a search engine? That's fundamental business practices.
Number 3, yeah, this is interesting. More businesses are going to move away from Google Analytics and use other tools for tracking. Okay. There's not a heck of a lot of reasons. There's a lot of different solutions that are out there. But what I think that is important to recognize here is that Google Analytics is really nice, but it's extremely robust, extremely big. And one of the challenges that local business owners face is just getting simple information to what's going on. How do certain things translate into business for them? Well, that gap hasn't been closed yet. You know, to be able to make predictions, for example, off of social traffic patterns or review acquisition patterns and whatnot, and use that into business decisions. That's what's got to come out. And I think in 2013 we're going to start to see, I'll add to this prediction, and start to see analytic tools that suffice for the local business owner a lot better. And for that reason, maybe why businesses are going to move away from analytics, but search engine land doesn't disclose it in that sense. Google Plus will continue to grow in 2013, but at a slower rate than 2012. They've got to. You know, they've got 300 million active monthly users, whatever. That means nothing. Now, what I do find interesting is that I've got people asking me, Scott, what is this Google Plus? I've got friend requests, okay? You've got friends of yours that are asking you to be on Google Plus. You go and look at friends of yours, they're actively using that platform. That's what's changed in the last couple of months, is that it is starting to become a little bit more mainstream. So maybe to add on to Search Engines Land's prediction is that Google Plus is going to become a slightly more mainstream. You're going to see this with your own friends, I bet. People that aren't in the SEO community that are starting to use Google Plus in different ways. We're being forced to use it, and I think that that trend will continue and grow in 2013. The App Store is largely ignored by marketers. Now, Search Engine Land goes on and says, you know, this has to do with SEO and ranking, that unlike SEO for search, where we can get websites that rank high up in Google, app makers are really poised in challenging times to get their apps to rank high in the searches on Google Play and Apple's iTunes Store. Well, this is largely due